Hello. So I didn't really have a ton of I don't really have a point behind today. There's no real. I got a good bit of time to kill before my daughter comes. I'm waiting to pick her up, and yeah, there's been a couple of ideas bobbing around my noggin this morning, especially because I'm kind of so off kilter in my body today. It's not that I'm off my practice or my regime in any such way. Just with both having a female body and having an immunocompromised body, it likes to surprise me sometimes. And this past week, it has surprised me with major flare-ups and just discomfort, a lot of discomfort. And I mean, it always keeps me on my toes. So I suppose that today's kind of topic is balance in the body, balance in life, balance and discipline in the commitments that we set for ourselves, and the benefit of maintaining those balances and those kind of checking our own boxes. And one of the biggest contributors to being in balance is the commitment that we make to our practice and the commitment that we make to our bodies. And I'd like to think that a lot of what I talk about really does encompass and embody the triad, like the mind, body, and soul. And this is no different. This is really no different, because whenever the mind is out of sync, or whenever the body's out of sync, the mind is out of sync. Whenever the mind is out of sync, the spirit is out of sync. Like, we really have a hard time connecting to self and connecting to source and connecting to our environment, the people around us, whenever we're just really not feeling it, or whenever we're not pouring into our bodies in the ways that we know we probably should be. My biggest the biggest thing I try to do anytime that my body goes out of whack, especially whenever I have a big flare up like this, or like something hormonal, which is what I'm experiencing now, goes really out of kilter. And that is that I try to sit with myself. Like, I try to have at least, 5 to 20 minutes where it's just myself alone, to kind of do a full body scan and really just check in with myself. And I find so often that I really do get answers through that. I get pangs, I get visualization, I get feelings throughout my body that I didn't feel before I felt to feel it. And it's wild to me what the body will show you in silence, and as well what the body will show you in movement, and what the body will show you whenever you're just kind of listening in general. One of the biggest parts of my practice over this past year has been, as I've mentioned before, going to the gym. And a big part of that is that I'm an artist for a living. A lot of what I do all throughout the rest of the day has me sitting. It has me very stationary. And granted, I get up and I move quite a lot throughout the day. Like, I'll be, whether I'm cleaning or stretching, or I'm never in one spot for too long. But I'm constantly, in one way or another, like this, like hunched and contorted, and just not, it's not great for posture. And so I do a lot of stretching, I do a lot of yoga. But for 2 years of doing that steadily, I wasn't exercising, I wasn't moving around. I actually started getting really, really sick. My body started shutting down. The symptoms for the diabetes started becoming unavoidably apparent, and it became so hard to maintain my energy throughout the day. Like, I was just exhausted from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep, and like basically praying for sleep. And it's wild to me, because this is after experiencing so many years of steady committed practice, and like very being experimental with diet and conscious of diet and exercise. And so whenever I started making those changes over this past year of like movement, especially movement, I noticed so many things come up within my body, and other things really start to balance. And a lot of the time I get told, like, oh, you're so disciplined, you're so, like, you're with your practice, you're so strong in that regard. And as grateful as I am to hear that, I really am, because it does feel like it feels good to be on this other end of the practice, and with my practice, it feels good to be with my practice. But at the same time, I see it more out of a necessity than I do out of an option. I don't see being disease riddled as an option. I see it as something that's almost unavoidable. And especially in our society, I live in Canada, for those who aren't on my Facebook or know me personally, or, I do these through YouTube as well now. I'm from Canada. A lot of our food that we get in grocery stores isn't food. And so during the winters, it can be a lot more difficult to access proper nutrients. And so a big way that I get that is through my vitamins, my food, my, extra minerals that I have to take to ensure that my body's kind of maintaining its own checks and balances. This past week, especially having a daughter who's also, she's a teenager, like our cycles sync, we ebb and flow off of one another, and the example or the actions I do unconsciously, like my automatic reactions, become her reality, and they become her reactions and her actions and reactions, and it becomes her norm. And I've really gotten to see that in a healthy way over the past couple years, watching her manage herself. And as the cycle sets in, or is resting off, or is picking up, and things really start becoming tumultuous throughout the body, seeing how she adjusts what she eats, seeing how, and not in a way of being like, oh, I need to eat less because I'm bloating. That is a fucking ridiculous concept to me. I am bloated 3 times my normal body weight right now, and like, I'm still not trying to smush that back into the package, and I'd never hoped for that for her either. But she will instead decide, I need more red meat. I'm starting to feel really tired, really low in myself, like really just, I don't have that like iron. Like I'm starting to feel easy to like, or starting to see within yourself, like you're easier to bruise, you're easier to, just, you feel within your body what you need. And then other times it's very much like she needs greens. Like she wants all the greens. She's very apt. She loves citrus, especially during the winter time. Whenever she starts getting that mental low, she'll eat oranges. She'll switch to, smoothies. And it's so cute, but also admirable. I want to say cute because she's my child, and watching her grow from like a human this big to a whole ass person is, it's admirable. But it's cute, it's sweet, but it's decision making. It is literal discernment. It is just discernment. It is just deciding, I should do this instead of this today. And that becomes really difficult sometimes. For me, my practice this week, and a difficult one to make anytime I need to cut out coffee, is choosing tea over coffee, because I know that it's not good for my inflammation. My inflammation throughout my body triggers a lot of other aspects of my autoimmune condition. My, inflammation triggers different like just everything. If one thing starts and then the rest follows, and it truly does always become like that domino effect. And so whenever my diet, my health, my body isn't in a place where I know it's working in unison, it's going to be working against itself, and it's going to be working against me. And it's just how it goes. It's just how it goes. Now that's not to say it's an easy thing to just be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna choose to not do this thing. A year and a half ago, I quit vaping. Like I quit all nicotine, and I've been smoking cigarettes and nicotine since I was probably about 10, 11. That's not a good thing, but I was that kid picking up my mom's butts. And my daughter, her name is Temperance. She truly lives up to her name of moderation. And she absolutely hated that I smoked. She hated that, she's like, it doesn't make sense to me that you would be knowingly doing something that hurts yourself. And I genuinely thought for years, I'm like, oh, well, it's just, I like it. I enjoy it. And it wasn't until my body really started suffering, and like suffering, that I realized I was justifying something that wasn't contributing to me or my body or myself in any sort of good way. And it's just bad news bears. I started noticing my circulation, like my blood circulation was absolutely horrid. I'd start losing feeling in a lot of my, like these 3 fingers, and then along the left side on my toes. And then it became not just whenever my sugars were, like my whole body, the inflammation, the lack of circulation, each different thing was playing off of one another. So the fact that I was vaping, the repercussions from the vaping on my body was playing an effect on my diabetic symptoms. My diabetic symptoms were really messing with I also have psoriasis. My psoriasis. And my psoriasis eventually evolved into a palmoplantar pustule psoriasis. So it happens on my hands in little like pustules, and on my feet. But it is severe, severe, severe psoriasis. Like my knees and my feet, Maybe one day I'll show you guys. It tends to, it's very flaky, very painful, very red, very, and that's usually my gauge for how my levels are, how my flare-ups are. On the days that my flare-ups are really, really bad, my psoriasis is usually pretty exacerbated. But again, it comes back to the one feeding off the other, feeding off the other. And so on the days that I'm really in tune with my hormones, with my levels, with myself, like, and I'm checking into my body, I'm checking into my mind, I'm taking the time to sit, not just in movement and in flow and in creative space, but also to have that intentional moment with myself, and to, sometimes at the gym, I will meditate in between my sets. And it just allows me to kind of do that 10-second check-in, do that full body scan, see where everything is at. And it really just helps all that much more. The kids are starting to come out. But ultimately, in this quick little ramble rouse that we've done here, balance in all things, self-love, eat good food, take your vitamins. If you're Canadian, give yourself that extra 20 minutes in the morning to warm up in your car. Love yous. Bye.